Today we're going to be looking at the forecast function within Excel, and some disclaimers before we use this then. This is obviously just taking the data that we give it and using it as a model to then work out future forecasts for its, the data that's being given. It's not going to be able to manipulate or understand any markets or fluctuations and anything that might change within your particular circumstance in terms of, like when we're looking at home value here, it obviously doesn't understand your neighborhood or anything that's going on there. And obviously it can't fluctuate in terms of bank, percentage rates or anything like that, but it can only just look at and give you a rough idea of what the data is and where it's come from. So a great way of doing this might be looking at kind of Rightmove, for example, seeing and understanding, previous times that a house has sold. So you can say that a house has sold in 2001 for this amount, and so on and so on. And then it'll give you a forecast of what that house might potentially be worth, in the future. But like I say, this can't be taken as gospel or anything like that. It's just you have to take it at face value and say this is a rough estimation. But that being said, we're going to have a look at this now and we're going to understand the forecast. So say that we've had a valuation for a house, or that a house has sold every, kind of couple of years, or that we've moved, we have a flat, for example, something that's quickly turned around, say, and we have that's moved on every couple of years. And every time we've turned it around, or a new tenant has taken over the flat, we've then, had it revalued, and this is the value of the flat that we have, for instance. So what we can do at this point then is we're going to insert the function button there, so we can press the equals sign, and we're going to insert the forecast function, not force, been watching too much Star Wars. So when we put in for, we can see that we get all these different options here, and there's quite a few different forecasts and stuff that you can insert. But for us, we're just going to stick with the plain old forecast to start out with on this one. And we can see that we get some arguments down at the bottom that looks a little bit confusing. So we can see that we want in the first argument to be x, the second argument is the known y's, and the third argument is the known x's. So for the first argument that we're going to use, then we have the x, and x refers to the year that we have. So we're going to insert that as cell B13 there. And the reason why we just insert it as a cell like so is just so that it can fluctuate, and we can just change the value within that cell, and then we can change the forecast maybe depending on how we want to do. So once we've inserted that first one there, we're then going to press the comma, and it wants the y's. So the y's are going to be the values that it has, or the information that you know in terms of the y's, and we can just select the cells there. So we've selected cell C2 down to C12, and then we can press the comma, and now it's wanting the known x's. So again, we can just select all the dates there. So that marries up there for us, and it just gives Excel that knowledge of the data that we have. We can close the parentheses there and press an enter, and we can see now that our values have come through. And we can see just by formatting there that our values, or our forecast for our flat, should be worth £252,494 based on the year there. So the 6 years difference between 2020 to 2026, we can see that we've just only added on £494 there pretty much, based on the values that we have at the top here. We can also do this for things like savings. So if we have the savings up at the top here, then this can work in exactly the same model. So we can say, I want to know how many savings I'm going to have in the year 2030. So we can insert the forecast model. And again, we can just go down, we can select the forecast. So the known X would be the year 2030, which would be cell B12. Press the comma, the known Y's, we can go down there, and then the known X's have gone up. So once we've selected all of our data, we can close the parentheses, and we can see again there, just changing this again into the accounting, that we should have in the year 2030 15,755. So not a great jump there in terms of what we've done previously and stuff, but obviously we've had some lower years at the bottom and some higher years kind of up at the top there maybe. What we can do is, because we've already set this as a variable, so we can now just change the date if we wanted to do. So we could see that roughly if we were to continue on the same pattern as we have done in the year 2040, we'll have about 20,000. If we were to change the forecast, so we say that, our tenant is going to stay within the flat for 10 years before we change this again, then we can see that actually when we've added on the 10 years there, that's bumped that up quite a bit there. So hopefully it just makes a little bit of sense to you, and it gives you the opportunity to have a little bit of an insight into some things using the forecast function. But like I say, it can't predict everything, but it does the best based on the previous data that you're able to feed into it. So hopefully this helps. If you have any questions, don't forget to stick them in the comments below, and I'll hopefully see you again soon.